This is an Evergreen Media Network studio production.
Broadcasting from the Evergreen Media Network studios in Vero Beach, Florida. It's Huntin with Heather.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Huntin' with Heather. So this is episode 13, part 2. And if you haven't been listening, I've been talking with one of my bucket list guests, Miss Jana Bair from Skullbound TV, Skullbound Chronicles. Welcome, Jana, back. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like you and I could chat for about 10 hours, so we'll have to try to narrow
for
it down.
sure. For sure. Yes, definitely. I mean, I know that you're way out in Utah. I'm down here in Florida, but you do come down to Florida because your dad lives down here, right?
Yep. He lives for 6 months out of the year. He lives in a little town right next to Venice. Venice is probably what most people had heard of, the little town, not so much. But yep, I have been, and that's where my grandma had a place before I was even born. And so my dad lives in Wisconsin, but goes down to Florida 6 months out of the year, just like my grandparents did when they were alive. And shark tooth capital of the world, Venice, Florida. And so we have that connection. I am absolutely obsessed with shark tooth hunting. And I'm not a diver.
Shed hunting, though.
It is. That's exactly what I tell people. It is the excitement of shed hunting. And because for some reason, it's got something to do with millions of years ago, that area of Florida being all underwater and how the ocean laid out. But you can just literally walk the beaches of Venice, Florida, or my best spots are actually inland a bit where you're like construction sites.
Peace River.
Or they're redoing. Yeah. Or you're like, you find not non-paved roads where they have brought in sand and dirt. And you can, it's funny. We used to take my dad's dog for a walk. We used to call it Poopy Lane, but that was the best shark tooth hunting spot. And he broke my heart a couple months ago when he told me they paved over Poopy Lane. Oh, so that's a bummer. But yeah, you and I have that Florida connection.
So I'm in a little town called Yeehaw Junction. So we are in the center of the state. We're just, Yeehaw, believe it or not, there is a town and people do live there, but we are just north of Okeechobee River, or Lake Okeechobee.
Okeechobee. Yep.
And then a little further inland is the Peace River, which is, if you've never been, that is huge for the megalodon, teeth. And so
dinosaur bones.
Yes. So when I told you earlier, I was like, man, I meant to bring in my little show and tell to you, which my son had found a megalodon tooth in Vero, because we grew up in Vero. Yes, just like that. And what happened was they had pumped all the sand from the middle of the state, and brought it in to fill these baseball fields in the back. We would hours shark's teeth in this field in the back of the baseball field, and he found that, and then he found another smaller one. It was
that
just
is
the
so
coolest
cool.
thing.
I've never found megalodon teeth. I've found tons of the prehistoric, smaller, black, different kinds of shark's teeth, but the megalodon, I mean, I bought this off eBay years ago. Yeah, they're just absolutely incredible. And when you think of this prehistoric monster being the size of a Greyhound bus that would eat whales for dinner, it's just incredible. And I can't believe they're not that expensive, and they're never going to be any more of them. So I just think they're underpriced. But
I do too, because you can get them for a couple $100s. You can get them for and stuff like that. But it's definitely, I think it's a rare find and so cool. But I know I saw that you had one. And I was like, I need to bring it and show it, and I completely forgot it. So, but
I'm obsessed with shark tooth hunting pages on Instagram, Fossil Hunter USA. I believe he's in the Carolinas. He goes in the creek beds and finds these great, nice sized teeth. Every day I'm shoveling. He's out of Florida, Venice, I believe. He's awesome. There's so many great I'm obsessed with shark tooth pages on Instagram.
No, it is really cool. We don't believe, I'm on the East Coast, so we do have them, but you don't have them over on the West Coast. It's a different type of sand. Everything is, it really is a different type of beach. on the West Coast. You have the Gulf there, so it's a lot calmer, and the sand's a little more like powder, but it's still so much fun.
Yeah. And there's something about the way someone explained it to me one time about the way that the Venice area of Florida, how it used to sit literally millions of years ago, and how if you look at it, obviously, you know, Florida is kind of a finger dipping down into the massive ocean, and how you can just see how in that Gulf area, how stuff may be washed up. But yeah, it's crazy how you can just literally just walk the beaches. I really like to go to like bridges or underpasses that might not be as crowded, but yeah, you are so right when you say it's just like shed hunting. It's the exhilaration of finding one.
So I haven't had, I've shed hunted a little bit. We don't really shed hunt down here in Florida. I mean, I haven't really with my husband. My friends up in Georgia, huge, and they have their own land, but he's also a surveyor. So he like, oh my gosh. And it's just a huge addiction, you know. He's like, we'll be riding, and he's like, oh look, you know, I mean, it is very exciting. So I usually turkey hunt up there. And so in between this time and turkey, you know, we usually, because they start shedding now and stuff, and we usually start looking for them. And when I go up to turkey hunt in April, I'll start looking for the sheds. Now, completely different out where you're at, because they're giant out there.
Yeah. And I mean, it is really different when you hit the Western states, because you can find whitetail sheds, mule deer sheds, depending on where you are. Whitetail sheds, mule deer sheds, elk sheds, moose sheds. Like,
I can't even imagine.
You can even, the best find I ever found was on my bighorn ram hunt in Montana. Midway through that hunt, I found, and I'm always looking for sheds too. Oh, I found a ram deadhead that was like better than any shed I've ever found. I mean, it's sad that it was a deadhead, most likely killed by a lion. Its nose was crushed, the bones, but yeah, it's beautiful. It's just this big, beautiful ram. And I saw actually the skull from the road driving, and it was probably 200 yards up on this super steep slope, upside down. I actually thought it was a moose paddle because it was white, rounded, shaped like that. And as we got out of the truck and took a better look, my husband, John, was with me. He's like, that's a ram. I said, you think? So we go bailing up the hill and we find the skull. And many people don't know this, but when a ram dies, the sheaths over the skull eventually fall off. And it was only the skull laying there. So then we're like, the sheaths have to be around here. And we just went 15, 20 yards up the hill, and there both sheaths were. And that was, to me, a find of a lifetime. But yeah, shed hunting is so much fun out west just because of the variety of species you can find.
Now, do you ever find like bear skulls?
Oh yeah, really rare though.
Is it?
It's really rare because I have found a couple of really small ones, most likely cubs that were killed by older boars. But they say when bears die, I was talking to a biologist about that and why I don't find more. They say when bears or even mountain lions die of old age, that they tend to like go underground or in a den or cave up and die there versus out in the elements. Doesn't mean you don't find them once in a while, because you do. I have friends who have found mountain lion skulls, bear skulls. And like I said, I found a couple of younger bear skulls, but not as much as you would think. Not as much as like mule deer deadheads or elk deadheads or even ram dead, like I just explained. Yeah.
Yeah. So talking bear, let's talk a little bit bear, because you are, speaking of bears, you are huge. Like that is your jam. Like you love bear hunting, and you're getting ready you have like what, 4 coming up that you're getting ready for?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy. I love bear hunting so much, and I love explaining to people if they are like, I would never bear hunt. Because I remember I used to think that when I was in Wisconsin growing up, you know, bear hunting was a thing, but way up north. I didn't know anything about it. I had no interest and no passion for bear hunting at all. I moved out west and really got to sort of get involved in the conservation groups, understand how much bears, mountain lions, wolves, coyotes, how much these predators were seriously impact the ungulates. And after understanding that, and that it is necessary that we hunt predators, and the opportunities that are there in states like Montana and Idaho where they're over-the-counter tags, I started bear hunting my first year when I moved out to Montana, and it's just become an absolute passion of mine. And I love every aspect of bear hunting. I run my own baits in Idaho, so that's a baited hunt. Do tons of spots and stalk hunting in Montana. I actually drew a Utah bear hunt a few years ago. So I did a bear hunt with hounds. That's very popular here in Utah. And I've hunted them with bows, rifles, even pistols. And so I absolutely love the aspect of it. It's so misunderstood, especially baiting. Baiting is really misunderstood by the general public that don't. They think you put a barrel out with food and the bears just come running in, and it's just not like that. It's a lot of hard work, and it's a really important part of the wildlife management. We have got to keep the bear numbers in check if we want healthy moose populations, healthy elk, deer, and a lot of other little critters too. Bears have amazing noses, and they're just incredible predators. They're beautiful. I love them so much. I love being up close and personal with them and watching them, like on our baited hunts. And I've hunted bears in Alaska, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Idaho, Montana, all over. And every different style of hunting is just as exciting as the next. This spring, I'll be running my own baits again in Idaho with my buddy Heath. I'll be spot and stalking Montana. And then I also drew Prince of Wales. That's a draw, but my husband Jana and I drew spring bear tags there. So we'll be heading there in May. And then we're going grizzly bear hunting in June, just north of Unalakleet, Alaska. So it's going to be a very, very fun spring.
A very busy bear season. Yeah, I really wish that we could hunt bears in Florida. Unfortunately, last time we were able to hunt them was 2015. And before that, it was like, I think the last hunt was 1994. So then they opened it up in 2015. They were like, all right, you got 1 week, 320 bears. They said they gave out tags or permits. 2 days. 2 days, 302. I think it was like 304 bears in 2 days, and they shut it down. Don't tell me.
It's a very there's not a lot of bears.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very political topic. It's a very political topic, and there are topics like that are used for political purposes more so than the decisions are not necessarily made by the biologists or by the fish and game departments of the state. And there are a lot of, like the wolf issue, for example, very, very political. Decisions are being made from people who have nothing to do with wildlife management. And Florida is one of those states that took the hunt away. New Jersey is another state, I believe, that had the hunt. Now they don't have the hunt, or maybe it just came back. But it's a political issue, not often based on science, but predators need to be managed as much as anything else. Yeah. So I don't know politically the state of Florida, what's going on there, but that's why I belong to groups like Sportsman's Alliance, Blood Origins. Howl.org is a new one that's making a lot of ground, because they kind of send out email updates on what's going on in all of the states across the country, where we need to be focused on, what fight we can jump into, and do our best at either emailing our senators and legislators, or I used to be a Montana Wildlife Commissioner. You can go before your state's commission or board of directors, give your opinions. We've got to all band together and trying to make a difference. But bear hunting is definitely under attack, like a lot of other of our hunting rights in this country, and we just need to band together and join these conservation groups so we can become aware of how we can help.
I couldn't agree more. And those are a lot of, and that's like, we need to do our part. And like you said, and I want to learn more, I want to learn more on, and you've really helped explain that very well, and to the fact of just joining these groups. And like, how do I'm like, how do I get in front of these people? Who do you get in front of? Or do these groups do it for you? I mean, they have people that do it for you? I mean, or both?
I can't keep track. I need someone to help me out, and I can't keep track of everything that's going on either. And so that's why John and I belong to 15. We added it up the other day when we were talking about this, 15 different conservation groups. They all have different purposes, and they all spend their money differently. But the groups that obviously people are well aware of are like the Turkey Federation. I'm a lifetime member. Yep. Mule Deer Foundation, lifetime member. the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, those kind of groups we all have heard of, or most of us have heard of. There's a lot of groups that maybe people haven't heard of that do so much good that I am really a proud member of. Sportsmen's Alliance is one of those. They are the ones who sort of take the fight to the courts or defend our rights in the court system. Yeah, so they're very connected politically. They keep track of all the ridiculous bills that are put in place to stop hunting. Sportsmen's Alliance is really great. Blood Origins is another great organization group that is now a 501c3. Howl.org has just come on the scene in the last couple of years. They do a great job of informing, especially the Western states, what's going on, where we need to, send our email responses or our comments, how we can get involved. Howl.org is an annual membership like them all. But those three, I think, do a really good job at informing the public of what's going on and how we can help.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all that. And then we can go back and listen to it and sign up or, that's very important. I belong to several of them too, but those are some different ones I would like to check out and get involved in.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you another thing.
Great social media accounts too. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine. So you grew up hunting or somewhat in Wisconsin, which is completely different than hunting out west. I have I've hunted pretty much flat land, but I have had the opportunity. We have family that live in Idaho and in Boise, so I have been able to elk hunt out there a couple times. Completely different type of hunting. You're not going to a stand. You're sitting in a blind. You are walking. I remember my husband, we heard the elk, bugle. We ran up. We thought we got him. We ran up this mountain. He had to stop halfway. He's like, this flatlander is really having a hard time. But I think it's probably one of my favorite place to hunt is out west. It is absolutely gorgeous. The mountains, everything. It's just a completely different. And you're not on top of the food chain there. My husband always tells me, he's like, don't worry about it, Heather. You're on top of the food chain when we're hunting out in the swamp, wherever we're at. And we were flying out and he's like, hey, just let you know, you're not on top of the food chain out there. And I'm like, okay, thanks.
No, that's so true. It adds a whole other element to it when you add, grizzly bears, black bears, mountain lions, wolves. Now, mind you, some are more dangerous than others. The one predator that freaks me out personally are grizzly bears. I want to know this. Especially because in Montana, we are being overrun by them in certain areas. I was on an elk hunt. I arrowed a bull. I think it was 2015, I think it was. And on that 10-day archery hunt, we filmed 11 different grizzly bears on film. Those are the ones we caught on film. Can you imagine the ones that were in the thicket that we didn't see? And that is the last year I've hunted that area because it freaks me out. When I shot my bull, I wasn't sure about the shot. We had to sit overnight. I've never been, I take it back. I have been more scared on my goat hunt just recently, but for a different reason. Falling to my death and being eaten by a grizzly are two completely different things. But I was scared to death to go in after that bull the next morning. Luckily, we found him 100 yards into the Quakies and there was no bear on it, thank God. But it does add a different dimension, a different element of danger when you're hunting the mountains with big predators. Mind you, it's always going to be a threat right now because we don't have grizzly bear hunting in the lower 48. They're not used to being hunted. They're not freaked out by a gunshot. It's a dinner bell for them. And so it's definitely something to be aware of. And you could take steps to be safer than, as safe as possible with bear spray. I carry usually a pistol on my one hip, bear spray on the other. But yeah, there's definitely challenges in Western style hunts, predators being one of them, and the steep terrain being another.
Yeah, I watched your show, your goat, your hunt with the goat, and then I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and it's funny, I would never have thought you would to be afraid of heights, and yeah, and so. And then you talk on your podcast, one of the podcasts I was listening to, you were talking about how that, you were freaked out during that goat
Oh,
hunt?
well, we're talking full-blown panic. I'd never
Yeah.
known what a panic attack truly was until this goat hunt this year in Utah. It was the most spectacular terrain, as beautiful as anywhere I've ever hunted in the world. It was this unit, the Uintas, it was the Chalk Creek Camas unit, it's one of the biggest hiking destinations in the West. There are trails everywhere. It is jaw-dropping. I felt like I was hunting Glacier National Park. It was just so beautiful. But mountain goats, a species I'd never hunted before. I'd seen them on other hunts, but they're always at the top of the mountain, in the middle of nowhere. And you're like, I could never get up there. And this was a 17-day hunt. It was 4 days of scouting, 13 days of hardcore hunting. And where I shot my goat is pretty unbelievable. Basically what I felt like was dangling off a cliff. And the video, I don't know if it actually shows how treacherous it truly was. It was insane. I literally, there was day 14, got cliffed out, and that was really scary day. And then the day I shot my goat was incredibly challenging for me. And I've hunted tree stands my whole life. I've dealt with the heights, but I'm always like triple strapped in and,
Right.
super safe, go super slow. This is a different kind of fear of heights. When you're walking on a path like this big and you could fall to your death, and your brain, I know I'm not going to fall to my death. I am on a 3-foot path. Everything's just fine. But as I look over and it literally 1,500 vertical drop off to another canyon that
Oh my gosh,
your brain
no
tells
way.
you this isn't smart. We shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
And it was pretty treacherous, but I love how that episode turned out. I think Heath boiled 17 days of filming into the perfect half-hour show, and I'm really proud of that one more so than the others.
Yeah, it's a great show, like fantastic. I've watched it a couple times, and I was following along with you before you put it out, like on your Instagram and things like that. I would see the pictures, and like you said, beautiful. Like you were in the glaciers. There's this beautiful lake, and you guys are walking out, and I'm just like, yeah. And I felt like I was there with you. I was like, this is just, how amazing is this? What a great,
Well,
what a great
that's a huge
opportunity.
compliment.
Yes. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
listen,
Thank you so much.
was-
That's a huge compliment. I want to take people there. That's what I want to do. I want to, show people, if maybe they don't have the opportunity to do that style hunt, they don't live in the mountains, they don't, for whatever reason, that's the biggest compliment I could ever get, is that you felt like you were along on the hunt. And, there's a lot of episodes that I've done over the 14 years of, wanting to show why we hunters are animal lovers and what is so fun about hunting. And like you and I've talked about, it's really not about the kill. It's about so much more than that. That's why my slogan has always been, it's about living, not just finding our own organic, healthy meat, but the challenges, the pre-planning, the conquering the mountains or conquering the cold, or, just pushing yourself or learning that weapon. Even learning the weapon, it has so many benefits. And, I've been really blessed to be able to get most of these memories on film. And that mountain goat one sure was special, especially because Heath, my cameraman, he was only with me 6 days out of the 17. And so my poor husband, John, had to be the cameraman that last week. And he did an amazing job. We're worried about getting up to this steep mountain, but we're trying so hard to take the time and film the emotion and, stop, get the camera out, film this or, film that. And, I feel like John did an amazing job of not only, coaxing me up the mountain and down the mountain, but capturing it all on film too.
Well, I cannot thank you enough. You keep doing what you're doing, because you have been a huge mentor to me, and I love everything you're about, and you're fantastic. So keep doing it, girl. And thank you for coming on the show, and I love you. And thank you, audience, and come back to listen to another Huntin' with Heather episode. Love y'all.
Thank you so much for having me. Let's chat again.
Yes, for sure.